It is Saturday, and we are back with another slate of NFL pick'ems we missed last week, as you might have seen in our power ranking video, because I was off for a work trip, but we're back, and we're going to be here for the rest of the NFL season. So, let's go talk about them picks. But before we get into the video, I wanted to take a second to ask you to please subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. Really helps us out. If you're a fan of the NFL, you'll love this channel. We release multiple NFL-related videos every Thursday and Saturday all year long. Now, let's get back to the video. So, as I said before, we missed week 6 of picks, which is sad because I did really well in those picks on my own. But here's a recap of our week 5 picks, a little bit less good. So I tried to call some upsets here that just, didn't go so hot. And there was some pretty big favorites that took some L's, like the Seahawks losing to the Giants and the 49ers losing to the Cardinals. Who'd have thought? But we're not going to stay too long on these guys because, this was 2 weeks ago. Who cares? Let's move on to this week's picks. That's what you're here for. And so we're going to start out with the London game, that being the New England Patriots visiting the Jacksonville Jaguars. And, this might be nearly as bad as Thursday Night Football. At the time of recording, I don't know what happened in Thursday Night Football. Maybe it was a really good Thursday Night Football game, but I'm guessing it was not because of the matchup. Either way, this game doesn't look that great on paper either. You got the New England Patriots visiting the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are effectively at home because, 1, they didn't need to travel this week, given they were already in London, and 2, the Jacksonville Jaguars play multiple home games in London seemingly every year, so they actually have a pretty strong fan base in the UK, which will help them in this game. And let's be honest, New England Patriots fans are not traveling to London to see this iteration of the Patriots play. Now, the one big X factor the Patriots have is that Drake May actually looked pretty good in his first NFL game and likely will be starting again versus the Jaguars, who do not have a very good team at all. And so I think there definitely is a world where the Patriots win this game and could actually win it pretty handily. But given the Patriots are traveling this week and the Jaguars are not, and if you remember what happened last year when this happened, the Jaguars destroyed the Buffalo Bills, who were very good last year, when the Jaguars got to stay in London for that extra week. They're going to have that massive time change travel advantage, so I'm taking the Jaguars, but let's see if Drake May can be the guy who just dominates in this game and prove that he is every bit as good as all these other rookie quarterbacks who kind of all look pretty good. Next up, we have the Titans visiting the Buffalo Bills, and the Buffalo Bills, yes, they lost 2 in a row prior to barely beating the Jets last week, but they're still a 4-2 team. They're still easily the best team in the AFC East, and they're playing against Will Levis and the Tennessee Titans. I think it goes without saying that we're picking the Buffalo Bills, and this is mine, along with Vegas's lock of the week for, obvious reasons. Because even if Buffalo Bills offense can't do anything, and even if Amari Cooper doesn't even suit up this game because he's not able to get integrated into the system, they're still going against Will Levis, and he'll do all the work Buffalo needs for the Buffalo Bills to win this game. Now, here we actually got one of the best games of the week. There's a few really good games this week, and this is one of them, being the Houston Texans visiting the Green Bay Packers. Both these teams are very good. I ranked them 5th and 6th, respectively, in my power rankings. Texans 5th, Packers 6th, and this game is in Green Bay, so you might need to give a little bit of that leg up to the Packers. The Houston Texans are very good, obviously with a 5-1 record, but they've had a little bit of trouble beating a lot of teams on the season. They only have a plus 8 point differential in spite their 5-1 record. They also got destroyed by the Minnesota Vikings, a team that the Packers got destroyed by in the first half, but destroyed them in the second half and actually made a really close game. And so, given the fact that at least versus a really good common opponent, the Packers definitely put up more fight than the Texans, and the fact that Green Bay is at home, I'm taking them to win this game. And surprisingly, Vegas is too. I really thought Vegas would be on the Houston train here, but either way, I'm siding with Vegas again, picking the Packers at home. After that, we got another not-so-great football matchup. We got the Miami Dolphins visiting the Indianapolis Colts. The Dolphins are still going to be without Tua, and so we don't know what Tyler Huntley can do, but I don't think we expect much of him, especially with what we've seen thus far on the season. On the other side of the football, I'm not totally sure yet if we're going to be seeing Joe Flacco or Anthony Richardson. I think most people who want the Colts to win would hope we see Joe Flacco, but given Richardson has already missed 2 weeks, and I think it's in the Colts' best interest to start Richardson and give him time under center because that's the only way they're going to know if they have their guy or not. give him a little bit of time, give him those snaps, and if he's not the guy, he's not the guy. Go pick someone. But the last thing you want is to trade away or sit a guy that ends up being a star because you didn't give him enough time to flourish in the NFL. Either way, though, if the Colts start Flacco or Richardson, I do pick them to win this game. I think it'll be a bit closer if it's Richardson and a bit of a worse football game to watch. But Joe Flacco can absolutely sling this ball across the field. And while the Colts defense isn't anything special, I think pretty well any defense in the league can stop the Tyler Huntley-led Miami Dolphins offense. And so, at home, I'm taking the Colts in this one. And now we got a bird-on-bird matchup. The Seattle Seahawks visiting the Atlanta Falcons. The Seahawks started the season 3-0 before losing 3 straight games to drop to 3-3. The Falcons, on the other hand, have definitely looked very good in their recent weeks, on their way to a record of 4-2. Kirk Cousins has definitely improved since his immobile start to the season where they lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And all told, the Falcons' offense and defense is solid. Yes, there are a lot of questions around Bijan Robinson, why he's not being utilized enough. And it seems like Kirk Cousins' favorite target of all the targets they have in Atlanta is Darnell Mooney. But hey, you know what? It works. They're winning games, and that's what matters. The Seattle Seahawks should be able to put up a big game against the Atlanta Falcons. The over-under in this game is like 51 points, which shows you that Vegas is expecting a shootout, and so am I. The Seattle Seahawks are very good offensively. They still have DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. You got Kenneth Walker healthy on the ground. The offense should be able to get some stuff going. I think Geno Smith is going to have a really good fantasy game, but I'm still sticking with the home team. When in doubt, take the home team. Take the team that has the slightly better record and that has done it against harder competition, and you're rarely going to be wrong. And so that's why I'm picking the Atlanta Falcons to win in what I expect to be a pretty fun shootout. And here we have another of our marquee matchups for Week 7 of the NFL season. We got the Detroit Lions at 4-1 visiting the Minnesota Vikings at 5-0. These two teams I also had super high in my power rankings. Vikings at 4, Lions at 2. I believe these are two of the best teams in the NFL. They're divisional opponents. The coaches have been around for a while, so they know each other's schemes very well. This should be a really exciting and fun football game to watch. In terms of my picks, I'm fully going to acknowledge I'm a bit of a homer. I'm taking the Lions going against Vegas, who has the Vikings winning this game. But this is definitely a game that could go either way. I think the Vikings likely missing Aaron Jones will really hurt their ability to have a dual threat offense. The Lions already have one of the best run defenses in the league. They just re-upped Aleem McNeil, who's the heart and soul of that run defense, along with linebackers Jack Campbell and Alex Anzalone. So I think the Lions should have no problem stopping the Vikings' running attack, and it's really going to be a question of how is Sam Darnold able to perform against this Lions secondary. The Lions secondary has been beatable for the most part this season until they absolutely shut down Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys, a team that should have a pretty good passing attack. Again, they have Dak Prescott, they have Jake Ferguson, they have CeeDee Lamb, they have Turpin, they have Tolbert, they have all these guys, but the Lions were able to stop them. Maybe their defense is starting to figure it out. And if they are, I definitely think it's advantage Lions. On the flip side of the football, the Lions offense, the last 2 weeks, Jared Goff has had an over 150 quarterback rating both of those weeks. I think the Lions offense will be able to solve this Vikings defense. I think they're not going to be as good as they were against the Seahawks and the Cowboys, but Jared Goff is hot. They'll be able to put up some points, and I think the defense will hold the Vikings enough to win a very, very tight contest on the road. Moving on to another divisional matchup, we have the Philadelphia Eagles visiting the New York Giants. The Eagles got a win last week, though I don't know how nice that win was. They barely squeaked by against the Cleveland Browns, with Nick Sirianni making an absolute fool of himself on the sidelines after the game, yelling at his own fans or Cleveland's fans. I'm not sure. Either way, looks absolutely immature to be an NFL head coach. And what we've seen from the Eagles thus far in 2024 and back last year in 2023, as well as what we've seen from his former coordinators, Jonathan Gannon and Shane Steichen, I think Sirianni is more the problem than he is the solution for the Eagles. And hopefully the Eagles management realizes this too and gets rid of him before they lose out on this absolutely talent-filled roster that they currently have. Because let's be honest, The roster Philadelphia has should be one of the best teams in the league. But how they play together, there just seems to be a culture mismatch in Philly. On the flip side, the New York Giants should have one of the worst teams in the NFL. But they've actually been surprisingly competitive thus far in 2024. And I think Malik Nabers is going to be back and definitely a guy that should be valuable against an Eagles secondary that's probably the biggest weakness of their team. Add in Wan'Dale Robinson and Darius Slayton if he's healthy, along with Tyrone Tracy, who actually looked really good as a rookie running back for the Giants last week. And you got a team that might be a little frisky. Remember, this team went to the playoffs just 2 years ago. Yeah, last year was terrible, but Brian Daboll knows how to coach. It seems like this might be a bit of a better year for the Giants. I'm not out here saying they're going to make the playoffs, but at home against an Eagles team that seems to be struggling a bit, I'm actually going to take the Giants to pull off the upset in this one. I know, this is a little bit out on a limb. Obviously, the Eagles are decently heavy favorites, but sometimes you just got to trust your gut, and my gut's telling me the Giants are going to pull off a pretty big upset here. Next up, we have another divisional matchup. This time, we got an all-Ohio-based orange team with the initial CB. Yeah, that's right. We got the Cincinnati Bengals visiting the Cleveland Browns. How similar can these teams' franchises be? I don't know, but all I do know is on the field, they're not similar at all. Yes, both these teams have losing records thus far this season. The Bengals are 2-4, the Browns are 1-5, but let's be clear, these two teams are very different. The Cincinnati Bengals started this season pretty bad when they were 0-3, losing to teams like the Commanders, who we learned are actually pretty good, as well as the Patriots, who we now know are still pretty bad, with both those games being at home. But in their last 3 weeks, they've won 2 of 3, and they barely lost to a Baltimore Ravens team that is one of the best teams in the NFL. On the flip side, the Cleveland Browns have looked like one of, not the worst teams in the NFL, and it's not getting any better. Their offense has failed to put up 20 points in a game this season. They just traded away Amari Cooper. Their top target is probably David Njoku, who's still recovering from an injury, and there's not much good to say about the Browns. Yes, their defense is still solid, but their offense is so bad, it really doesn't matter. And so even though they're on the road, even though they only have a 1-game better record than the Browns, I'm taking the Bengals to win this one. It should be pretty easy. Burrow has looked much, much better in the past 3 weeks, and I don't expect that to change against the Cleveland Browns. I expect the edge rushers from the Bengals like Hubbard and Hendrickson to be able to eat on this Browns offensive line and just make this offense struggle, especially with no Cooper in tow. This should be a pretty big domination, even if it is on the road in a rivalry in-division game for the Bengals. Next up, finally moving away from our divisional matchups, we have the Carolina Panthers visiting the Washington Commanders. And at the start of this season, we would have looked at this game and thought, oh, this will be the worst game ever. These two teams had the first overall pick, though the Panthers had traded away the previous year to get Bryce Young, and the second overall pick in last year's NFL entry draft. And while the Carolina Panthers are still kind of ass, they're a little bit less ass with Andy Dalton as their starting quarterback compared to Bryce Young. And on the other side of the football, Washington is a much improved unit who I had just outside the top 10 in my power rankings this week with what we've seen from Jaden Daniels and this offense, along with the fact that the defense, while not very good, is still not bad, at least at getting to the quarterback. And so while I'm still not saying this is a marquee game, it's definitely better than I thought it would have been coming into the season. And with the Commanders being at home in this game and significantly having the better team and season, I think they're going to be able to walk away with this game without too much issues. I have them winning and going to 5-2. Next up, we have two lowly ranked teams, the Las Vegas Raiders visiting the LA Rams. And the Raiders have just been not very good this season. Yes, they did beat the Baltimore Ravens, but outside of that, this team has not done a whole lot of anything. They just jettisoned Davante Adams out of town. Who knows how bad that hamstring injury was? I'm not going to speculate here, but either way, the Raiders are definitely a team that is rebuilding and likely hoping to take a quarterback in next year's draft because Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell are clearly not the guys for this team, and who knows if Antonio Pierce will even be allowed to stick around for another year after this. I think they should still give him a chance to try to build out a culture with a new quarterback, but I could definitely see a world where they don't. On the flip side, the LA Rams' start to the season has been absolutely dreadful, primarily based on injuries, but there seems to be a decent chance that Cooper Kupp will be back for the Rams. And once you get Cooper Kupp back, you already have Kyren Williams, and Matt Stafford is still healthy. All of a sudden, this Rams offense looks so much improved. Yes, Puka Nacua is still going to be out, but Cooper Kupp is enough to allow for Matt Stafford to make this offense hum. Their defense is still all right. Yes, they're still missing some offensive linemen, but when you're going against a team like the Raiders, I'm still picking the Rams to win this game, even though it has a similar vibe to what I talked about in the Ravens-Raiders game, where I did say the Raiders had a chance to win this game because of where they matched up. I think the same thing is true for the Rams, but the Rams are at home, and Cooper Kupp should be enough to take down a Raiders team that I think is pretty low in terms of their spirits. So yeah, Rams win. Next up, we have our third banger matchup. We have the Kansas City Chiefs visiting the San Francisco 49ers, a rematch of last year's Super Bowl. And how this is not a primetime game, I do not know. I understand there are some decent primetime games this week, but we literally have a Thursday night football game, a Sunday night football game, and 2 Monday night football games, as well as a London game. That is 5 primetime games this week. How? NFL, please tell me, how, with all those primetime games, do you not have the Chiefs and the 49ers? I can understand the Lions and Vikings because you didn't know that the Vikings were going to be as good as they are. I could even somewhat, though less, understand the Texans and Packers because there might have still been some questions around how fresh and young their quarterbacks were. But this game, we all knew this game was much-watched TV. How on earth is it not on prime time? NFL, come on, you gotta be better than this. But I digress. Let's actually talk about this game. The 49ers are at home and favored in this game, which frankly kind of surprised me because they're 3-3 and the Chiefs are undefeated at 5-0. However, I will acknowledge with it being in San Francisco and the Chiefs having barely won a lot of their games and missing now Hollywood Brown, who's been out the whole season, Rashee Rice, and Isaiah Pacheco, with Patrick Mahomes being 6 touchdowns to 6 interceptions on the season, yeah, this might be advantage 49ers. The issue for the 49ers is still that their running game is questionable at best. Yeah, Jordan Mason is great, but it's questionable if he's even going to be playing in this game. McCaffrey is obviously still out, but the 49ers should be able to at least move the ball through the air, though we'll see what Kansas City's defense has to say about it. The 49ers obviously drove on them effectively enough in the Super Bowl, but again, without McCaffrey, there's a lot of questions for how effective this 49ers offense will be. On the flip side, the Chiefs lost a lot of their offensive weapons and lost L'Jarius Sneed. And so maybe it's not the Chiefs matchup. Obviously, Vegas has the 49ers winning this game, and I went back and forth on this one because it's tough to bet against the 2-time defending Super Bowl champions who are undefeated, but I'm going with the 49ers. And this is because this is a revenge game for the 49ers. This is similar to the Buffalo Bills in recent season. It seems like almost every season, the Bills beat the Chiefs during the regular season and then lose to them during the playoffs. Why? Because the Bills really get up for that regular season matchup because they want to prove that they belong in that contention series. And yes, the Chiefs do beat them in the playoffs and the cycle continues. But this feels like what the 49ers have. It's the same reason I picked the Ravens to win on opening night of the NFL season. I acknowledge that didn't go well, but they were a toe away from going for 2 and winning that game. So there was definitely a possibility. And unlike that game, which was in Kansas City, this is in San Francisco. And so I am going to take them at home in a revenge game to be able to take down the Chiefs and hand them their first loss of the season. And now we move to our primetime game, starting with the New York Jets visiting the Pittsburgh Steelers. And again, NFL, could you not have swapped this and the Chiefs 49ers game? Like, seriously, everybody knew at every point in time throughout the offseason to now that that game is better than this game. But whatever, NFL, I guess we got to get the Jets on primetime because apparently Aaron Rodgers is much-watched TV, even though he's a slightly above average quarterback now, and that's really it. I acknowledge he's a great quarterback all time, but like what he is right now, slightly above average is it. That's it. Okay, again, sorry, another rant. Let's get back to talking about this game. And the Steelers are, as always, a team that is so unpredictable. They can win some games, they can lose some games. And I guess that's why the New York Jets are favored by Vegas in this game, which is frankly shocking to me. The Steelers might be turning to Russell Wilson, which I think is actually a big upgrade for them in their offense. And the Jets, yeah, they got Devontae Adams, and yeah, he's played with Rodgers and Hackett before, so he might be fairly seamlessly integrated, but I don't think that's going to be the difference for the Jets to beat the Steelers on the road, especially when the Steelers' defensive front is fearsome and the Jets have a sieve of an offensive line. Like, this is a Steelers win for me. I know the Steelers are unpredictable. I know the Jets could win this game because the Steelers could just not show up on Sunday Night Football, but, like, do we really think the Jets are favored in this one? This, to me, from the get-go, felt like a Steelers win, and I was shocked to learn I was calling an upset in that. And now, moving on to Monday Night Football, we have our first of 2 Monday Night Football games, and I'm not going to rant about this again. But NFL, please no more doubleheader on Monday Night Football. We don't like it. I will acknowledge, though, this is actually a really good football game. The Baltimore Ravens visiting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Both of these teams I had in the top 10 of my power rankings. Another marquee matchup. I am at least happy that this matchup got a primetime slot. I'm surprised it did because I don't think a lot of people had that high of hopes for the Buccaneers coming into the season, especially with what the Falcons did. I felt, and a lot of other people felt, that the Buccaneers winning the division last year was more on the back of how bad the NFC South was, as opposed to how good the Buccaneers were. But this season, they've definitely changed my mind. This is a very, very good football team who deserves to be talked about in Super Bowl contention with how good Baker Mayfield has been for them. And I really wanted to take Tampa Bay to win this game. I really did. But I chickened out and went with the Ravens. The Ravens have just looked so good over the last 4 weeks. And I just think Derrick Henry can find a way to run all over this Buccaneers team because he can find a way to run over pretty much everybody. There is definitely a world where the Buccaneers win this game. The Ravens' defense against the pass has actually not been that good. And the Buccaneers obviously have a great passing attack with what we've seen from Baker Mayfield. Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are a phenomenal 1-2 punch. And K. Dotton's actually been pretty good as a tight end in the check down and third option game. So the Buccaneers definitely have a path to victory, but I'm still going to take the Baltimore Ravens just because now that they have Lamar and Derrick Henry fully integrated, that's just scary. And there are very few teams in the NFL that I think can actually put up a fight against that team. And our final game of the week, our second Monday Night Football game, because again, the NFL feels the need to do 2 Monday Night Football games, is the Los Angeles Chargers visiting the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals are a team that I came into the season with very high hopes for. I thought they would compete for a playoff spot in the NFC. I thought they would be a 9 to 10 win team. They were my big dark horse pick in the offseason. And I think they've proven me wrong. Yeah, they've had some good games. They beat the 49ers. But, 3 teams have beat the 49ers. They're just one of them. And one of those other teams is the injury-mangled Los Angeles Rams. So, I don't know how much good we can say about that Cardinals win. On the flip side, the Chargers look like a brand new team under Jim Harbaugh. Yes, their passing attack is nothing special, even though they do have Justin Herbert. But it's because Harbaugh just wants to run the football with J.K. Dobbins all day, every day. And that seems to be working for this Chargers team, whose offense is flowing through the run game and whose defense actually looks quite solid, which is somewhat surprising given Brandon Staley was supposed to be a defensive savant, and this defense, while being super highly paid, was porous as all hell in the past couple of years, but now is all of a sudden good after they jettisoned some guys. I don't know. Either way, the Chargers actually look good. The Cardinals are hit and miss and might be missing Marvin Harrison Jr., which will really hurt their passing attack. And so I'm picking the Chargers to win this game, move to 4-2, and potentially only be 1 game behind the Kansas City Chiefs if the 49ers do win that game, like I predict. That is not something I had on my bingo card coming into the season, but the Chargers, especially with how bad the AFC looks, which is surprising to all of us, could actually compete for a playoff spot in 2024. I didn't think that was going to be possible for them given how good some of the teams in the AFC look to be, but I'll admit when I'm wrong. And right now, there is absolutely a path for the Chargers to make the playoffs. But if they're going to do it, they need to get wins like this one against the Cardinals. And so that's it for my Week 7 picks. All 15 games, including the Thursday Nighter that was picked previously. You can see it here. In that game, I did pick the Broncos to win. Hopefully I'm right. I don't yet know because I'm filming this on Thursday before the release. I picked the Bills over the Titans as my lock of the week. And my upset picks were the Lions beating the Vikings, the Giants beating the Eagles, as well as the Steelers beating the Jets. Compare that to Vegas, you can see those differences. They also have the same lock of the week, and I am now 4 games behind the Jets thanks to my paltry performance in Week 5. It wasn't paltry, I was 8-6, but you should be better than 8-6. I should be better than 8-6 when Vegas does that well. Sometimes I just get a little aggressive with my upset picks. Maybe I did again this week picking the Giants, but I'm going to stick by it. Either way, that's it for this week's video. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, remember to leave a like and comment down below. Help us out, help us grow. I'll see you all next time. Peace!